Seems fair to me.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another edition of Donnybrook. Boy, do we have a lot of topics coming your way, so let's meet the panelists and then get things started. Hey, hello and welcome back to Wendy, Wiese, talk show host of the Big 550 KTRS, who took a rare week off last week. We welcome for the first time Jaime Mowers, co-owner and editor-in-chief of the Webster Kirkwood Times. Welcome aboard, Jaime. There she is, Sarah Fenske, executive editor of St. Louis Magazine. And there he is, editor and columnist with the St. Louis American, Alvin, Reid. Well, Jaime, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience tonight with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're an owner of a print newspaper, and a lot of people, I guess, were a little bit startled when they read this week two things about the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, our local major daily.
Yes.
One, the printing operation is going from suburban St. Louis County to Columbia, and as a result, the sports scores will no longer be in the morning paper, the print edition, if the game is at night. So that's going to be a bummer, I guess, for the readers of the sports section. And then the Hartmann family, who have property all over from Naples to Napa and, of course, St. Louis County. And they've decided to buy a 5% stake of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and they own 3 newspapers in the Napa area. Some people are wondering, maybe they'll be the new owners of the Post-Dispatch. Do you see any silver linings in all of this?
Unfortunately, I don't. I am a huge proponent, obviously, of the print product. I want all papers that are still printing to survive. Luckily, the Post-Dispatch will keep printing. I mean, it's not going away, but I think people are really, really going to miss the Cardinals game scores, the sports games. You know, I think that those are going to be really missed. I hope that people still will subscribe and support the print edition, because I do think that's so important. But I think it's a great loss. I definitely think it's a great loss. But I obviously, like I said, as a newspaper owner, I want to see all newspapers thrive and survive in whatever way, shape, form they can.
So as someone who's a recent victim of the losses of print newspapers, like, I think the threat is very real. But I think that the Post-Dispatch staff has had an inkling that this might be coming for a long time. This move of outsourcing to a cheaper printer and shutting down smaller presses is happening all over the country with these newspapers. And I think the sports staff in particular, from talking to some friends that are on it, they have been preparing for this and thinking about this for a while. So they're not caught off guard by the fact that they're going to have to reinvent how they cover this team. I think it's going to be a big challenge, but I think they're ready for it. And I think they want to continue to make it make sense for sports fans to still pay for that daily newspaper to be delivered to their house. And they're putting a lot of thought and energy into how to do it smartly. So I think you're right to be very worried. But I feel like if anybody can rise to the challenge, this is a pretty smart staff that has weathered a lot.
For sure.
Yeah, that's very true.
One silver lining, I think, is Gannett, will now print it. And they print a lot of newspapers, including ours, the St. Louis American. I will say that I'm glad that the Gannett people will get a look at the Post-Dispatch, because maybe they would be interested in purchasing it. I think Gannett would have bought the paper when Lee did, except Lee made this ridiculous offer. It's and they just said, like, we're not going to top that, because thank you, Post-Dispatch, but you're not worth that, which Lee soon found out. Because they know how to handle this type of thing. They've bought larger papers. That's one of the things that moved me around the country, was when they purchased papers, and I was, kind of on the splashdown team in Arkansas. So I know how they work when they do this kind of thing, and it would have been better off, but maybe it's not too late. As for the Hoffmans, this is the I got money, I'm Johnny come lately, I'm going to buy a newspaper. It just, I'm telling you, that don't work.
But after, and isn't that surprising, though, to everybody, that after the debacle, if you will, out in, you know, wine country here close by in St. Charles County, that they would now try to make an impact in print journalism? That just sort of seems...
I have to wonder if it's related to some of the debacle. They have gotten some bad press coverage lately.
Right.
And
yeah.
Yeah, because things are not going well out there. And, you know, thank God the local newspaper has been on it. Some of that press coverage that hasn't been so favorable has been the Post-Dispatch. And if there's one thing I know about, like, billionaires who have plans to transform the world, it's that they don't like bad press coverage. You know, if you control the message, then you can control what's in it.
Speaking of controlling messages, that's kind of what FleishmanHillard's been doing for many years.
Yeah.
And at one point, it was the largest PR company in the world, based in St. Louis. And it still is, in downtown St. Louis for the time being. Has been since 1953. But Sarah, it announced this week that it's actually moving out of downtown St. Louis from North Broadway to 101 South Hanley in Clayton. And so now it's going to join some large corporations, including 4 from the Fortune 500, Olin and Graybar and Emerson and Centene, along with Enterprise Rent-A-Car in downtown Clayton. The downtown St. Louis group that's trying to promote downtown St. Louis on Twitter today said that a good corporate steward should stay in downtown St. Louis. Do you agree?
I do agree. I hate that they left, and I kind of hate that they made this decision and apparently didn't even consult the mayor, you know, didn't try to find some way. I understand that they needed a much smaller office space. People aren't coming into the office 5 days a week anymore, and this represents a big downsizing for what they wanted. This was a chance to seek out something new, but I wish that they had given some thought to, can we make this work in downtown St. Louis? Tried to come up with some plan. It's a loss.
And we don't know that there wasn't some kind of internal angst on the part of Fleischman in terms, you know, making this decision. But at the end of the day, they have to do what's right, what they believe is right for their employees, for their bottom line. And so I don't begrudge them the move.
Where does the CEO live?
Well, the departing CEO actually lives across the street, basically, from the new headquarters. But he's now in Ireland.
All right. Well,
and the current CEO, you're right, lives in San Francisco.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, there's your answer right there.
Yeah.
I live in San Francisco, and I got this big old building. When we were the world's largest PR firm, somehow it squeezed into this building, and now that we're still in this building.
Oh yeah, you're right.
You know, I could see he's in San Francisco, where obviously, you know, square foot for business property is much lower here than it is there. But at the same time, he's looking around like, man, I'm paying like, you know, $15,000 a month a foot in San Francisco. Somebody's got to pay for this. I'm not renting this big old building in downtown St. Louis. So I think that goes with the person not being here, and he can talk all he wants to about, I understand the history of FleishmanHillard in St. Louis. No, he doesn't. He doesn't care either.
Well, I don't know. You know, Pittsburgh has, I think, no, I don't know about Pittsburgh. Cincinnati has 4 Fortune 500 companies in their downtown.
Wow.
Kroger and Fifth Third and Procter & Gamble. And I don't think this is a good week for the mayor if she's in Mexico City while yet another firm announces that it's leaving. Well, and I don't begrudge her being in Mexico City. I think travel's good.
She was given no warning this is going to happen. It's not like a hurricane.
Should she have been on top of it?
Well, I don't think there's a way that she could have been unless they wanted to have that conversation and they didn't.
But
this isn't her fault.
But then the mayor's office says that, oh, well, we have been meeting, you know, preemptively with other corporate citizens, and they're all staying and they're excited. And then when they were pushed to provide a list of names for those companies that they met with, we can't do that. I mean, it's just, it seems a little, it seems a little shady.
They asked the Cardinals and the Blues, are they going to move?
Yeah.
No, we don't think so.
Not right now.
All right, thumbs up.
Not right now.
Hey, Alvin, let me ask you about Ray Hartmann, our former colleague here on the Roundtable. In fact, he's one of the founders of Donnybrook back in 1987. Well, he left this glorious job to run for Congress, and it turns out he's taking $5,000 or so per month from his campaign fund, donors are giving him money to run for office, and the law allows him to take a certain amount of money, so he's taking that. His opponent, Ann Wagner, is criticizing him for that, saying that he's bilking people. Do you agree with that?
No, he's not bilking people, and she's, you know, a billionaire. Yeah. So, you know, how she sees the world and how the rest of us see it might be a little bit different. I don't think any politician, and I don't like this law that you can do this. I just don't think that, I just don't think it should be done. That's not directed at Ray. That's directed at any candidate. Obviously, I think, you know, some candidates who couldn't quite run if they had to, like, go to their factory job, you know, like every day or whatever. So I get it. But at the same time, maybe there's some way that you create some other kind of political fund, you know, that little thing. Is that still on
public financing?
Is there still that income tax thing where you could give $1 to the presidential candidate, which I never have done, but maybe we could do that statewide.
I lived in Arizona when they had public financing for elections, and it was people found all sorts of ways to abuse that. We do not want to open that Pandora's box here. But I do think you're making the point you're not trying to make, because as you mentioned, Ann Wagner is a millionaire or billionaire or whichever it is. For somebody like Ray to run for this job, he needs to have some income coming in. That taking that salary is what allows him to do that.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who would really, you know, that would be a make or break decision, including possibly Abraham Lincoln once upon a time.
I think the media deserve a D- in its coverage of this race. And, you know, a lot of members of the media complain, oh, you know, this guy's a threat to democracy, whatever. I think a threat to democracy is when the media, stations like this, radio stations, newspapers do not cover a congressional race. And if you run Ray's name through Google News, you'll find that this race has gotten almost no coverage since he announced that he was running for office.
Okay, well, all right. I'm not going to defend that, okay? I will say that, and I'm not comparing the two, but I kind of am. The reason that you won't have the baseball scores is because they don't have the people, you know, or can't pay the people to make that possible. All right, so thus, while I think every race should be covered, especially school board races. You know, a lot of this controversy that's going on about school board is because people got elected and no one had any idea what their agenda was because nobody paid any attention.
Right.
So then they stopped covering these races, and this is where we're at. So I'm not making an excuse.
So maybe some of the Rams money should go to the media. I'm not joking.
No.
Why?
Because of the makeup of the district, I think it's just sort of, it is believed to be a foregone conclusion with the power of incumbency that Ann Wagner has got the upper hand here. But I agree, there are so many people, when you talk about the issues like abortion and other things, Ray should have, I think he should have received a lot more coverage than
And
he
I think
has.
that she should have a town hall and a debate.
Absolutely.
Well, and to talk to local journalists. It is very hard to get her. I don't know if that's been your experience as well.
Yes, it has. We've reached out to her multiple times, and we historically never get responses. And we're about
That's
to do
incredible.
Yes.
That is incredible.
It's almost the same with the school board, as Blythe Burner and others have been asking for responses, and she's been getting no attention. But she did report this week, Wendy, that there's a firm in North County, Reid to Reid. It's officially listed as a home health care agency. I don't think it's any
Different
relation.
spelling. Different spelling.
Okay. Well, it's been operating some school buses, and I think 9 of them are out of compliance with state law. Some of them don't have license plates, which is not that rare in our area, but they also don't have the markings on the side that say the name of the company, where it's based, nor do they have in the back that stencil that says state law, you must stop when the bus is loading and unloading. So I guess the St. Louis schools just took them out of commission. I'm thinking, those are not serious safety infractions. Why didn't they keep those buses running until some guy could stencil the side of them?
Well, why don't we just put them in maybe a refrigerator truck that says Acme Fish on? Let's just throw them in the back of a
like Man from Uncle.
Yeah, I cannot believe you're being so lackadaisical when it comes to safety in children and making sure, because there are people even the most out of control drivers, when they see school bus, it's kind of like baby on board or Pomeranian on board, you know, that you're going to be a little more cautious. The fact that these 7 buses, and again, no comment, Reid to Reid, no comment on what was wrong, why it wasn't cleared ahead of time. But I think that they should be put out of service until those safety requirements are met. These are children.
But these are big yellow school buses. You're saying that we can't tell that they're school buses because they don't have the appropriate stenciling? They scream school bus, and to me that's a lot safer than a taxi.
But they
which
don't
is
have
the alternative.
They don't have some of them don't have extension arms that stop the children from crossing or stop the motorist from moving. So I mean, in my mind, those are, you want every single safety requirement, God forbid, in case there was an accident.
Yes, I agree, because the safety arms, that's a big deal, and there could be more serious violations going on that just we don't know yet.
But I got to tell you, when I was going to school back in the day, the kids would bumper hitch in the snow. We'd have 9 guys in a Chevy Vega, or we'd be hitchhiking. And I just went to a celebration of life for a great St. Louis and Denny Waldum, who headed up Gateway Greening and others. And they said that when he was 16 in Iowa, he drove the school bus at age 16.
And this is why we need the safety regulations.
That's right. That's right. And proper licensing.
But this is why we don't have any school buses. Like, we've made it really complicated, and it used to be we just kind of jerry-rigged the situation. You know, Bill's asking, why can't we have Dunkirk? We can't have Dunkirk because it doesn't qualify under the regulations.
Just keep the bus running while the stencil school bus on the side. The arms are one thing,
We
but
could
that
just take
wasn't every
magic
bus.
markers and
but
put,
that wasn't
"Please
every
slow
bus.
down."
Also,
Yeah,
you could
like this.
maybe have an escort car with the little siren, just like when you're on the highway where it says like
Wide load.
Right. Come on.
You could. An escort car is a good idea.
Yes, and by the way, most of the, quiet as it's kept, most kids in the district now are getting to school on time. Now,
85%, but the national standard's 99%.
All right, okay. It was, what, 40% on day one? I am not excusing this anarchy that they have going on down there, but I am saying that they are making some strides, so let's work with them instead of like, just right.
Okay, we're on a transportation theme. Let's talk about the purchase of the city of St. Louis, I think of 9, maybe 7 Ford Mustang Mach-E crossover SUVs at $46,000 a piece, Alvin, Reid. I just looked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. The used cars going for $15,000 if you buy the used rental vehicles right now. Why can't the city just buy those?
Because, see, your thinking is as old as the fossil fuel that runs those old kind of vehicles. All right. Now, in reality, okay, it's here. It's time. Everybody's talking about not just climate control, but what's the future going to be about? Is China going to run the whole, like, you know, EV in these other countries and whatnot? It's time. If you're going to replace a vehicle, replace it with a $47,000, electric vehicle, and in the long run, you will save money. Not only will it be good for the environment, but you will also ultimately save money. And you just have to start somewhere. And, like, they want to start in the city. They had to buy vehicles anyway, and apparently part of this grant or whatever, they had to be, electric vehicles. So now we're haggling because the word Mustang is on there. Also,
it's $46,000.
I understand. Okay, but also I will say this, that I understand that Karen Spencer may have some concerns about that, but Karen Spencer's running for mayor. And this is just one more thing she could, like, try to throw and see if it sticks to the wall.
And I do want to say, in defense of the city here, there's apparently some sort of city ordinance where they're supposed to be doing electric vehicles for all the reasons Alvin just talked about. But at the same time, there's some sort of state law, and they try to use the state procurement stuff. And this state law says you got to buy American, and I think it might even specify, like, you can do Ford, you can do GM, this sort of thing. The Venn diagram where these things overlap is not huge. And while $46,000 seems like a shocking amount for a car, as far as I'm concerned. Apparently, that's now the median price point. Cars have gotten really expensive since the pandemic.
Yeah, it's only shocking because we can't fill potholes, we can't pick up trees, we can't trim trees, we can't pick up trash, we can't trim trees. I think that's why, even though what you're saying is logical.
But you didn't suspend vehicle purchases. You're going to purchase vehicles.
Did the mayor take an EV airplane to Mexico City?
Well, maybe if they had them. I wouldn't get on one.
We're talking about carbon footprints. Sarah, as we continue, Transportation USA. You have a story this week that Metrolink has actually some gates for the passengers because people are complaining that people have just walked onto Metrolink without having to buy a ticket. So now we have gates established at 4 Metro East stations, but you've got problems with the way they're being operated.
Yeah, so 4, the gates are totally up, they're operational. There's 7 that are about to come online in the city of St. Louis, also part of this same system. But for these stations and all the ones that get finished in the next year, the security, the fare cards that go with these security gates are not yet implemented and up and running. So they have to have a guy whose job it is to stand there and just swipe each person through. And when I asked Metrolink, like, wow, this is like a temporary thing, right? This will be going on for a couple weeks. They said, no, that's going to be going on for the next 15 months. That seems a little crazy to me. Like, is that the best use of manpower, that we have an individual to swipe us through? Like, I will be your public transit valet. Let me swipe you through these new security gates.
Well,
that's what we're spending
money on. I do that job. And B, all right, you're worried about the little children. Well, the little children ride the Metro, so do the adults.
Well,
safety. Come on, we're going to be inconvenienced for a year to 15 months. But we're going to have security. We're going to have sanity.
A living human being,
right? Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And they will be armed, unlike the ambassadors, correct? So that makes me happy.
Right. I like that you will have to have a little eye-to-eye satay with somebody, you know, to get on that train for 15 months. And then we'll be like D.C., Portland, all these other places that you just use your swipe card and you get on, okay? This is not bad. This is not a bad thing. This is progress.
Jamie?
Slow progress.
Thank you for the slow part, Alvin.
I do agree with, like, I do think there's an element of safety there. Like you said, when you have to look at someone eye to eye. And the other thing is that I believe, you know, Bi-State has said this can be flexible. I might not, you know, she was saying maybe it won't have to be for so long, or, you know, so hopefully, I don't know.
There's some wiggle room, maybe.
Yes, yes. Yeah. But yes, people don't want to ride. Some people don't want to ride because safety, safety, safety. So, I mean, I'm all for something that hopefully will build that safety and the reputation.
How'd you feel about the St. Louis Business Journal story, taking a look at Maryland Walk, which is a tall condo tower, expensive condo tower in downtown Clayton, and across the street and across the alley is a parking garage that's attached to the new Emerson headquarters in Commerce Bank. Beautiful building, except that there's no architectural ornamentation on the 4 stories of the garage that face the condo owners. So they're saying, hey, what about us? Why don't you put the beautiful siding on the side that fits us?
Yes. Those people paid a lot of money for those condos, and they thought that it was going to basically look the same. You know, the developers, when they were having the public hearings, they said, oh, it's gonna, yes, it'll be beautiful. You won't even know it's a parking garage. You won't even know. And now, what are they looking at? An ugly parking garage. So, I mean, I'm with them.
All right, and meanwhile in Kirkwood, they built those monstrosities in downtown Kirkwood, and weren't they supposed to be looking beautiful, and traffic wouldn't be a problem, and all that? I'm sorry, you get what you pay for, people of Clayton. You get to stare at it. You know, those of us that say, like, I don't know about this. Yeah, I can't see the church steeple anymore. Oh, it'll be fine, Alvin. All right, now that it's there, well, what can I do?
I downtown Kirkwood is very beautiful.
It was beautifuler.
Yes, it is. Beautifuler.
Oh boy.
But these, you know, these condo dwellers were paying back in 2006, wasn't it, like $500,000 to $1.4 million to get into these condos? all they thought they were asking for were slats. I mean, it's like, you know, just slats, and now there are no slats, and so there's a lot of unhappy condo owners, and I think that assumption that people are going to do the right thing, it just doesn't work in 2024.
No, I think it's the opposite. That, because I deserve, something nice because I paid $1.7 million.
No, I don't think it's that.
It should be everywhere. This region is letting itself down. Aesthetics are so important, whether it's the highways, the downtowns, the buildings. Personally, I think those parking structures should be underground, like WashU does, so you don't have to see them at all. I don't know why they're 4 stories high.
Well, because people have to pay for that kind of thing, and it's more expensive when it's underground than above ground.
Well, so it's expensive, but so the beauty of the area is key. We don't have the mountains, we don't have the ocean. If we want to compete and attract people here, tourists and new workers, we have to make ourselves look good. You just did a story on murals this week. You get it, don't you?
I mean, I'm a great fan of murals. I can't say that I'm too worked up about these condo owners who are staring at the back of a parking garage. I kind of feel like there's some lawyer who's gonna, make this work for them. That's what happens when you own a $1.7 million condo. Like, someone's gonna listen to them.
Just plant ivy. In 2 years, it'll cover the whole thing.
That's not actually a bad idea. Hydroponics. Okay, let's go to the old mailbag and see what people had to say about last week's program. The polling of its residents by the city of St. Louis concerning the distribution of excess monies takes me back to when my fiancée and I were planning our wedding. As the groom, I was often consulted, but I knew deep down I really had absolutely nothing to do with what was going to happen. That from Everett Lewis of Richmond Heights. You can write us care of 9PBS, 3655 Olive Street, 63108. We love those emails, Donnybrook at 9pbs.org, and use hashtag DonnybrookSTL on social media. Take the time to call the 9 line at 314-512-9094, and I hope you listen to us on your favorite podcast source. Thank you so much to Jaime Mowers from the Webster Kirkwood Times for joining us for this edition. Great job, and hope to see you again soon. Everybody, we'll see you back here in 7 days.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.